right, please take your seats. This is probably the most anticipated and a very valuable, if not the most valuable part of the program. So all the administration and staff that you've been exposed to so far work depthfully in their areas and know a lot about it, but the ones who really know what's going on, the ones who are living it, are the medical students. And that's this panel of students who've taken their Saturday morning to come and be part of this. So without further discussion, students in captivity.
Hi. Oh, thank you. Oh, look at that. My name's Justine Landy. I'm a fourth-year medical student from Miami, Fort Lauderdale, Florida, and I'm going into family medicine here in a couple months. So this is our student panel session, so we'll get started with a quick little PowerPoint, and then we'll open the floor to any questions that you might have. So the first thing that we'll cover in our PowerPoint is the curriculum. And so the objectives here is just to provide a quick synopsis of the integrated curriculum. That's the key word there, is the integrated. That's the new part. And demonstrate the quality of education here at U of L. And then also just to get you really excited for starting your medical career here at U of L. So the new integrated curriculum. So this is an LCME accreditation requirement. And so that they want our curriculum and everybody else's in the country to be coherent and coordinated. And so just really integrating everything throughout the 4 years. So what does this mean for us? So during first and second year, it used to just be basic science, books, classroom, and that was kind of it. And now they want to integrate how you can use like the clinical application of everything that we're using. So integrating that into the curriculum the entire first and second year. And then also, there's been a huge focus on making our exams with questions that resemble the board exam, like style type questions as much as possible. So that way we're kind of training for our board exam from day one. So with that being new, what's the same? We still have our awesome and engaging professors. You can start off any session with music before to help you memorize the bug we're about to learn or anything like that. The PowerPoints, our teachers spend a lot of time making their PowerPoints and being around to answer any questions and just focusing on us becoming as successful as possible. The other thing that stays the same is the openness to feedback. If you like feedback surveys, U of L is the place for you. You will be able to provide any feedback you would ever want to provide, and they're very responsive also. You know, things are changing. They're always tweaking little things about our curriculum, as you can see, and everything else to make it for what matches our needs. And the last thing that's going to stay the same too is our student affairs. Our student affairs office will help you with tutoring, being able to talk to someone if things get tough. Do you need money to go to conferences, to do anything academic? If you're having issues picking a field, that you can talk to them, and then residency match stuff as well. They're there for literally anything, and they're a great resource for us, and they're staying there just like they should. So the curriculum. So what happens is, so for first year, the fall semester is very much just your anatomy, your embryology, and your physical exam. And this really makes sense. You learn where everything came from with embryology. You go up to the gross lab, you see it, and then you'll learn the physical exam steps on how to assess that part of the body when you're in clinic. So that really makes sense to put that all together for the whole semester. For the spring semester, the block is called Molecular Basis of Life, Defense, and Disease. And so what this is you keep the same biochemistry and genetics that we had before, but now we're integrating some just general microbiology, the molecular pathology, and all of immunology. So you're learning how the body defends against diseases through, like, on a molecular level. And then they'll also, the big word, integrate how when that fails us, how the diseases come about. And then the last part is actually a really important block, even though it's the smallest one here. It's the biostats and evidence-based medicine. From your first board exam till the end of time, you're going to have to answer biostat questions. And so our curriculum has a set spot right there for us to learn from the get-go those biostat type questions for our board exams. Oh, sorry. So that's summer. This is the key one. Summer. This is your free summer. You can do anything you want. You can just go on vacation with family. You can do research. You can do externships. People go abroad on global health trips that our school has had for years and years. You can make your own global health trip. This is really what you want to do for this summer. And that kind of changes after that. Summers get a little bit more strict. So second year, it's very organ system based. As you can see here with the first block, cardiovascular, respiratory, and renal system. So what you're going to do here is you're going to learn the physiology and histology of each organ and just kind of the normal. That's the overall concept of med school. You learn how everything is normal first, and then you'll go into the pathophysiology of disease, how are you going to recognize it and diagnose it, and then how you're going to treat it. That very common sense progression through the disease. And that is put into the organs. So you just learn everything about the heart for a little bit and then everything about the lungs. And then this summer is crucial. This is step one. Step one is your first board exam, and you will have plenty of time to prepare for this and figure out how you're going to study for it, but you're going to be spending that summer studying for and taking step one. So first and second year, we're all in one area. We're right here in the instructional building across the quad there. Once second year ends, unfortunately for those of us here in Louisville, but I think that they're excited, the Trover folks end up moving to Madisonville for their third and fourth year. And the point of the Trover program, for anyone who's in it now, the point is just to really get that small town life and being a doctor in a small town and getting best training there. And so the goal, of course, is to increase the number of physicians in rural areas. And so they leave us then. We see them every once in a while, as there's some Trover people here. So third year, you can say goodbye to the classroom and hello to clinicals. You are going to be out and about in hospitals, clinics, all around town. If it's family medicine, I was 3.5 hours away from my rural rotation for family medicine. And so you're just out and about. This is a very structured year. You have your mandatory rotations: peds, OB-GYN, psych, family medicine, neurology, internal medicine, and surgery. Some are 6 weeks, some are 8 weeks. And then the part that is yours, though, that you can kind of make it for yourself, is the career exploration. If you're still kind of confused on what you want to be, this is the time to figure it out. After each of those rotations, there's an exam, but it's just a wonderful time. You're just out and really feeling like you're practicing medicine. Then fourth year comes around. You have a couple mandatory rotations with your acting internship, ambulatory rotation, ICU, and palliative care rotation, but then the rest is electives. What do you like? What do you need more exposure to before you're an intern? This is really just up to you and what you want to do. The main part about fourth year, hence the photo, you feel like you're living out of a suitcase in at airports. You applied for residencies, and now you're interviewing at all of them. So your first part of your fourth year is spent just flying around interviewing. Then we'll have match day here in March, and then we'll graduate in May. So at the end of the fourth year, this is a fun little game. For you all, May 2020, you'll be sitting at your graduation ceremony. You'll get your diploma. You'll be hooded. And then now you're officially a doctor with a nice little MD at the end of your name, which is a nice little perk. When you graduate, you can graduate with honors and a distinction in one of our tracks. So you will sign up for this at the end of the spring semester of your first year. And so this is for you to explore medicine, but in a way with things that interest you. And so the tracks that we have are global health, research, business, and leadership, and then also medical education. And so you apply for this. If you are accepted, then you can graduate with these distinction honors. And usually some sort of publication or paper comes out of it as well. The last part that I'll present on is something that the school's really been focusing a lot on, and also just overall in the country residency programs are focusing on it, and that's overall wellness of the students and residents and physicians. And this is based on the idea of caring for oneself is to care for others. And so our wellness program exists to help students recognize and manage their stressors and also to maximize their personal growth. Medical school is a stressful time. There's really no way around it, but we really want to make sure that students are recognizing what's stressing them out and then how to deal with that and make them the best physician they can be for their patients. So when we're cultivating this wellness for our students, it involves many aspects of life. You know, my wellness won't be the same as another student's definition of wellness and what makes us happy. And so we have kind of these 5 axes of personal health that we focus on. The first one is mind, and so this is just self-awareness, empathy, self-expression, and that stress management. And so we have meditation classes. There's an elective now that 2nd and 4th years are taking. We're learning how to meditate. And there's just a lot of opportunities to really increase your self-awareness. Body, nutrition, and just physical activity. We have the gym here. We have the gym down at the main campus, trying to make incentives for working out and fun little games, or the steps with your Fitbit, things like that. Trying to figure out how can we get students up and moving. And then nutrition, they've actually started some cooking classes and food prep classes as well. Socially, there's a social chair, and their job is to make sure that when there is free time, we're using it to get to know each other and have fun and going out and exploring Louisville as well. Because we're students, but we're also living in a pretty cool city, so trying to get out there and explore it. The community, just trying to serve our community as much as possible. There's a lot. It's impossible for me to go over all of the volunteer activities that we do here at UofL and that people just do on their own. You just find your niche and you just get involved in things that make you happy, and next thing you know, you're serving your community by doing that. And our mentoring, so the class above you, there's someone who is your mentor, and then when you move to 2nd year, there's a 1st year that you mentor. And so you're just constantly helping each other through and handing off books and handing off all of your little tips for studying for tests. And so you're learning that mentoring relationship. So here are some photos. The big one there is kind of like our field day, College Cup. And it's a really fun event. I think everyone pretty much enjoys it, playing all sorts of games and physical activity, but also to trivia and pie eating contests. It's a lot of fun. The cans there you can see, community service, can drive, and then there's the dog therapy. Every once in a while, a couple puppies will make their way, and you just all of a sudden, all the med school students just flood into the quad to see all the puppies. There are a lot of selfies then. So in terms of wellness, so do we have a nice gym that's for free? Well, as you can see here, UofL down on the main campus built a multi-million-dollar rec center. It's quite incredible. The studios for yoga and anything you can think of, spin class, 6 basketball courts, 14,000 square feet strength training center. They have a gaming area that's sponsored by Qdoba if you just want to play video games. Like, this place is ridiculous. So yes, you can work out. Oh, and I'm done now. Here's Josh.
Is this on? So I'm Josh. I'm also in the same class as Justine. I'm a 4th year. I'm going to pediatrics. I'm not from Florida. I'm from Kentucky. So she talked about kind of the nuts and bolts of the curriculum and some other stuff about the school. I'm going to talk about why you should come to UofL and kind of some social aspects of medical school. So what do students like about UofL? This is like at the top of my list of people. I love all of my classmates, and I am going to speak for the other classes that I see them getting along really well. And I think that's really a unique aspect to University of Louisville, is that everybody gets along really well, and everybody's really willing to help one another, whether it's academic stuff or non-academic stuff. The Student Affairs Department here is really, really great. From 1st through 4th year, they're really willing to do whatever they can to help you through exams, through residency interviews, which we've just gone through recently. I get emails regularly about the 1st and 2nd years getting massages in the medical school. So they really go out of their way to make you comfortable and to make you ready for exams or to just de-stress whatever you need from them. They're willing to do it. The new building, yeah, so I don't know if you all toured it yet or if you're going to tour it, but the new facilities are really, really impressive. Everything is high-tech. There are places to charge your iPad or your Android or whatever, and the new lecture halls are really awesome. They're doing away with all of the sloped rooms like this, and everybody's sitting on a level basis, and you don't have to like look over people to see the screen. It's all of the facilities over at the new school are really awesome. If you haven't seen them yet, you're going to see them. They're really, really impressive. And the distinction tracks, which Justine already described, I think that's a really unique aspect to UofL as well. And I think that any of those interests that you all have will facilitate your future interest in those topics. So I think that's really unique, and it's a really cool way to get involved with other things outside of just studying medicine. So yeah, medical school's hard. It's 4 years. You're really busy, especially the first 2 years. You're studying a lot. You're taking a lot of exams, but there is time to do other stuff. We do find time to get out in the city and do things, and whether you're into going out to new restaurants or running or whatever, there's stuff to do in Louisville, and you have time to do it. So that's what I want to talk about here for the next few slides. So the food. How many people in the audience are from UofL or from Louisville? Raise your hand. So a good portion. So you all may be familiar with this a little bit, but I'm going to talk about it anyway because we love food. I love food. Yes, this slide, I was really shocked by this actually. We have a lot of restaurants, and I've eaten at a lot of restaurants in the city, but this is Nat Geo's travel website, and if you look at number 1, that says Louisville, right? It says Louisville. So it's the number 1 city in the world for trying out new foods. And this is not just in the country, places in India, places in Vietnam, places in France, and this list goes all the way down to number 10, and there are places in Japan and Italy too. So that's a picture of the brown on the left, which is where the hot brown was invented. So we've got a lot of restaurants, and they're good restaurants. So food trucks. I don't know if how much time you all spend downtown or around the medical campus, but there are always food trucks out, regardless of what time of year it is, regardless of whether it's hot or whether it's cold. They're more out when it's warm, but food trucks will park in this like 2 square block area, and you can walk outside during your lunch period if you're on surgery rotation. Well, probably not on surgery, but if you're on your internal medicine rotation or psych rotation or whatever, you can walk outside during lunch and grab something from the food trucks, and they're really, really good. And it's a good time to socialize with everybody in your class. So I'm kind of a coffee snob, and this is really impressive to me. So Quill's, which is down on Baxter, if you all are from Louisville, you're probably familiar with it. It won Best Coffee House in the country. So whether you're into food, whether you're into coffee, it doesn't matter. We've got literally some of the best in the country, if not in the world, here in the city. So music. We like music in the city, too. We've got a huge festival that's held down on the waterfront every year during the summer. Forecast, and they bring a lot of really, really great bands. And that's something that you can definitely go to as a first year, as a third year, and as a fourth year. Probably not between first and second year, though. You're studying for step 1. And that is the Palace, right? It's the Palace. Yep, that's the Palace. It's really pretty, and if you get a chance to go, it's really, really impressive in there. So outdoors, if you're into running, if you're into cycling, if you just want to get outside after you've been indoors for 14 hours studying, reading out of a book, there are tons of places to do it. So this is a picture off of the Big 4 Bridge. If you all aren't from Louisville, there's this new walking bridge that connects Louisville over into Indiana. They repurposed an old train bridge and turned it into a walking, running bridge. And that's a picture of that facing downtown. And we've got the marathon coming up in a couple of months. That's always a huge deal, and a lot of people in the school get out and run it, and it's part of a larger event, the Derby Festival, which they've got. It's like a week-long event where they have tons of stuff going on, and the marathon is just one small part of that. But yeah. And so I was surprised by this stat as well. There are over 100 parks in the Louisville metro and surrounding area, so if you want to get out and run, if you want to walk your dog, if you just want to be outside in nature, like I said, after being in school all day, there are definitely places to do it, and they're really accessible. So we like sports here, right? So the basketball team's pretty good. They won a national championship a couple years ago. The football team is also pretty good. The women's sports are also very good. Justine, yeah. Women's sports, yeah? You had a hard time. She played for UofL, so... yeah, so we like sports here, and you get discounts on tickets, and you get first dibs on a lot of tickets to go to football and basketball games, and they're good seats, right? Good seats. Okay, I haven't been, sorry, but football, basketball, women's sports too. It's not for everything. So, do you guys know the answer to this question? Mumbling? Yeah, Jennifer Lawrence. So, I really like Jennifer Lawrence. She's one of my favorite people in the whole world. And recently, I don't know if y'all saw this in the news, but recently she is also loved by the rest of the university now because she just gave $2 million to start a cardiac intensive care unit over at Cosair. And so she has been advocating at the hospital for as long as I've been here. She comes during Christmas time and walks through the PICU and visits kids. And what she does here is really, really impressive. And now she's not only just coming and giving her time, she's giving her money. And she's advocating that the city give another $2 million so that we can get the cardiac intensive care unit for the kids up and running as soon as possible. So, yeah, she's great, and she's doing great things for the university. She's a good face for the university, too. So, those of you who are not from Louisville, this is a big question. So I'm from Kentucky, but I'm not from Louisville. So when I came here, this was my big question. I was like, where am I going to live? This is a picture of the Highlands, which is a really hip area of the city if you are not from Louisville. There are a lot of really cool places to live in the city. And in that area specifically, there are a lot of restaurants, a lot of new apartments, a lot of old repurposed houses in that area that are reasonably priced. That's the thing about moving to Louisville. After having done residency interviews, I was surprised by how reasonable it is to live in Louisville. So you can live in a nice place on a budget in the city, which is not really the case in a lot of other cities this size. That's a picture where I live. I live over on Riverfront, on River Road, and you can see the city in the background. It's a nice place to live. And this is a map. These are little stars of where places that students live in the city, and the red is where we are, so you can see how far away from the med school people live. And it's really not a bad commute. As long as you don't have to get on the interstate in the morning, it's really not bad. You can be here in 15 minutes from pretty much anywhere in the city. Safety. So this is a question that gets asked a lot because it's a bigger city, and I think a lot of people from Kentucky come to Louisville, like myself. I'm from a very small town, so you come to a bigger city and safety is always a question, especially from the parents, right? Are my kids going to be safe? And the answer is, well, yes, but you have to be smart. It's like any other larger city in the United States, larger mid-sized city in the United States. We do things at the university to advocate for student safety and keep you safe. So there is an escort service available around the clock for students, and there's also a shuttle service available for students. So where most of the people park is over in the Health Science Center garage, and it's quite a walk, I guess, especially if it's at night. So you don't really want to have to leave the medical school and walk over there at night. So we have services available where you can get escorted back by security guards, or somebody will actually drive you back to the parking garage. And like I said, safe parking is available to the students. And there's actually a real live police station just over there. There are cops there like round the clock. So that's all I have. And we've got a good mix of years on the panel here. So we got a couple fourth years, a couple third years, second and first years. So this is your all's time to ask questions. Any question is fair game. What's that? Yeah, so before you all ask questions, I'm going to let them introduce themselves.
My name is Dexter Weeks. I'm from Louisville, Kentucky. I went to the University of Kentucky for undergrad. Now I'm here. I'm third year.
My name's Annie. I'm from Western Kentucky. I went to UK for undergrad as well, and I'm a third year.
My name's Rena Perlin. I'm a first year. I'm from Louisville, and I went to UofL.
My name is Ryan Connard. I'm a first year. I went to Eastern Kentucky University, and I'm a first year.
Here we go. My name is Nick George. I am a first year. I'm also from Louisville, Kentucky, and I did my undergraduate work at UofL.
Hey, I'm Brandy Jones. I'm second year. I'm originally from this area, and I did my undergrad at IU.
I'm Carly. How many medical students does it take? I'm Carly Whittington. I went to Murray State University for undergrad, and I'm a second year. Western Kentucky.
I'm Kristen Wickham. I am a fourth year medical student. I am from Western Kentucky, and I went to undergrad.
I'm Bobby Keski. I'm a fourth year medical student going into general surgery. Grew up here in Louisville, went to undergrad in South Carolina.
graduate of the University of Kentucky Medical School, and I have a feeling that my son is asking the same questions as a lot of kids in the school. You're trying to pick from UK and UofL. Forever and ever, we've always seen them as roughly equivalent. I noticed a lot of you guys went to UK. What made you choose Louisville over UK? I mean, was there something specific other than what we'd already been talking about?
Sure. So I didn't mention this. I didn't want anybody to throw anything at me, but I also went to UK. We don't like to really make these comparisons, but when the question is asked, we'll definitely address it. So I'll let all the other people answer too. But having gone through the senior curriculum, the third and fourth year curriculum, for me, I felt like the clinical educational opportunities were larger and more diverse here at the University of Louisville. We have more teaching hospitals. We have a standalone pediatrics hospital. We have a lot of neurospecific and cardio and pulmonary rehabilitation hospitals. So from my perspective, I thought that coming into the senior curriculum, I felt, to me, that was the most important part of medical school for me. Whether or not that's true, I don't know. But that was my perspective, and that's why I chose to come here, is I felt like the third and fourth year opportunities and the clinical experience that I was going to have here was more diverse and more robust than at the University of Kentucky. Anybody else want to address that?
Not that. Can I say something? Can I just say other things? Okay. Do I need to push the button? Is this on? Do I need to push the button? No. I mainly chose UofL over UK because I wanted to move to a different city. I had a lot of friends who'd graduated undergrad and did grad school at UK, and I just didn't want to get stuck in the same kind of environment because I kind of felt myself getting like senioritis, and I was afraid I wouldn't kick it into gear to study for this harder thing. And I know that's not something for everybody, but I just knew that that would be the way for me. And then talking to some of my friends who go to UK's med school, just the social activities they have there compared to here, I am glad I chose here because I like our environment. I like the lack of grade, like the pass-fail system makes us all more willing to work together, which, I mean, that's just my view of it. But so it's a lot of the people, again, like you said, and the city.
And I'll speak to that too. I was between UK and UofL like a lot of students are, and I think the thing that made it for me was on my interview day, I really saw the camaraderie between students. I really saw the way that the students and faculty work together. And the unit labs, the classes that we have that you saw like in College Cup, each group is assigned to like a college, and that's your group that you work with the whole time you're here. So those are people that you get to know really well, a subset of like 30 people, and those are your study friends, and those are your friends that you do things with outside of school. So you get really close with that college, that group of people, and it's through the years. So your college has 30 from first years, but it has 30 second years, and 30 third years, and 30 fourth years. So you really have that college and that knowledge to go by, and you have people to look up to that are within that college. So you feel the camaraderie when you're here.
Does that address your question?
Hey, okay, so one of you mentioned something about the pass-fail system, which is something I'd like you all to allude a little bit more on. I know a lot of colleges and medical schools are graded, which kind of can sort of foster, a lot of cutthroat mentality amongst the class. So how do you feel about the pass-fail system, and do you feel like it's, because I know here it's like a high pass, then a pass, then a fail, so do you feel like it could be adjusted to where if it was a straight pass-fail it might be better, or how do you, talk a little bit more about that for me. So, thank you.
I think the pass-fail system is great because, as you said, we have pass, and then we have a honor, which is your high pass. But the good thing is that it's all based off the percent that you earn in the class. It's not based off how well you did compared to your peers. So in that, it's possible for everyone in the class to honor. So it encourages sharing information and helping your classmates out, because my neighbor doing great has no, it has a benefit with me instead of affecting me in a negative way. So me doing well has it encourages you to share information and for everyone to contribute. We are all on a Facebook group where we all share our notes, share our charts. If someone figures something out or they find a source that helps them grasp the information better, they're more than happy to share that with the rest of their peers instead of holding that to themselves based off a cutthroat mentality.
Yeah, I'm going to second what Nick said. We're both first years, and I think coming in, that's one of the big concerns you have is how am I going to stack up against my peers coming in. And I will say oddly, or not oddly, I think it's intentional, the pass-fail honor system is directly related to student wellness. It takes away a lot of that cutthroat aspect, as Nick said, and you're going to get here and you're just going to value having your classmates help you study so much. There's nothing in it for them if you do poorly, and there's just so much collaboration and appreciation and wanting everyone to do well. I don't think about how I'm doing compared to my peers really at all. So it's more of a drive for me to be competitive with myself. Can I do better on the next test than I did on the first one? And I think that's just a really good spot to be in, especially when you're around so many people who had to compete to get in here, so many type A personalities. I'm sure you guys are sick of hearing that. But it really just cuts that tension away. I just feel really, really relaxed about the grading system.
Yeah, I'm going to echo what everyone else said. I mean, you're going to get more sources and information from your fellow classmates than you know what to do with. And so the pass-fail system really does kind of force that camaraderie between the rest of your class. But again, everyone got here because they were motivated to get the grades, where it's sort of a good mix. By having that honors thrown in there, you have that motivation and something to kind of set your goals high and try and achieve that. So it's a perfect mix of getting help from the rest of your classmates while still having kind of something to shoot for and strive for.
I'm going to add one more thing. So, we all know that everyone here is very intelligent and obviously is very well-rounded and able to do a lot of things and juggle a lot of things, but something that myself and other students, I think, realize coming in, or once we get into medical school, is that everyone is on that same level. So we're all used to, on a certain level, of being at the top of our class. We're all used to doing very well in all of our classes and being able to do extracurricular things and things like that. So, again, the honors enables people who want to achieve and set their goals high to do that, but then pass and fail. Medical school is already stressful enough. And you having to think about, I've got to beat out this person, that mentality is not productive at all. And so being able to, go to your classmates and say, hey, I need help with this, perfectly willing to help you out, things like that, that just makes the stress level decrease as much as possible. Of course, there's always going to be that baseline stress level just because you're in med school, but definitely think the environment that they foster here is great for helping students, again, help each other out, and you don't have to worry about your friend beating you out, because I know at other medical schools they have only a certain percentage of the class can honor, so you are competing against your classmates. But
Just as a final thought on that, sorry, I'm going to talk this whole time. When you're a physician, you're going to be collaborating, and I think that starts first year of med school at UofL, and I just really appreciate that about UofL.
Is this on? Okay, good. So I've heard a lot from medical students about making a timetable for yourself for time management, especially your first year. Does that work for you guys, or do you have any better recommendations for kind of managing your time that first year? Because apparently it's really hard.
Yeah, good question. Yeah, good question. Does any of the first years want to take this?
All right. Like most questions of this caliber, it really depends on the person. So you have the people that are, really like everything written out in their agenda step by step. That works great for them. Some people need things to be open. Or say, you're, doing whatever you're doing, cooking in the house, and you're like, oh, well, I have to study this, and they sit down and do it. Sometimes that works for people. What I would suggest doing is just try out different things and see what works for you. Like the rest of them up here, we were talking about the Facebook page and people bringing up all their study tips and blah, blah, blah. That's all great and well, but you need to figure out what works for you because, what works for one person doesn't work for everyone else. So that's really like a tough thing to answer, but I guess I can use my own personal experience, what I do. Maybe that'll help. Normally what I would do, say in my first class, which was the gross anatomy, embryology, etc. What I did is, I went to class, I took my notes, what have you. I would eat lunch, go to gross lab, then come back home. I would have, at least an hour, 2 hours, eat lunch, relax, just to, have my Zen time. Afterwards, I would then, make flashcards or write out something I didn't understand, rewrite my notes, test myself for a few hours, and then go and exercise or do whatever you had to do to just, release some stress. So that was kind of my timeline, and then, even after that, I would just slightly review things. But like I said, it's going to be different for everyone. I like structure, but I also need spontaneity, or else I can't handle it. So does that answer your question?
I want to add just two things, I think, in terms of kind of the time management piece. The first one being keep your priorities, and then the second one being that for me, things evolved with each course because I think each course had different requirements and things were structured a little bit differently, and so I had to approach them differently. As far as kind of keeping your priorities, I'm a mom. I have things that I have to juggle, and there are others in my class, as well, who are parents and have other responsibilities. And it's very easy to let school consume everything. And so I think it's very important for you to set aside early on, these are the things that I cannot sacrifice. These are things that I have to keep in my schedule. And whether those are things that are faith-based things or family things or whatever it is, that those are things that you keep incorporated into your schedule and you set aside that time as protected time. And then you build the rest around that. Because if you try and do it the other way around, I found for myself, at least, if I try and do it the other way around, that very easily I'm trying to slide those things in where I can, and they quickly kind of fade off, like with exercise or things that are not as much of a priority for me personally. But, and so again, I think it's whatever those things are for you. You have to make sure that you purpose those in there.
Thank you.
I guess to answer your question, I'm more of like a shoot from the hip kind of guy, and I didn't really need to create a schedule to keep on track with things. I'm sorry, but I think the thing is that you're going to have a healthy amount of fear coming into medical school. You're not going to need motivation as much to study things. And one of the things that you find in medical school is there's a lot of assessments to see kind of how you're performing, and so you can kind of track your progress. And as you get to use more of these resources, you kind of see, well, these are the things I'm strong in, these are the things I need more work on, so then you can kind of adjust what you're focusing on. But I really don't think, like anyone here thinks, well, I guess I should be studying instead of watching TV right now, even though sometimes you make the decision, I'm going to watch TV, but I don't think really it's going to be an issue as much as say undergrad is.
The only thing I'll finish off with is that if you love something, if there's just something that you love to do, you should continue to do it through medical school. Make sure that you're finding time for that, like everyone is saying. If there's something that it is your priority, make sure that you're keeping up with doing that, because it's just going to make you happy. If you're studying miserably, it'll show. And so really just continue to do what you love. And then also you're going to get a lot of advice on how to do things. Your class is going to you're just going to be flooded with information. And the beauty about med school is it's adult learning. So you get to pick how you want to learn. However it is, if that's watching the lecture 4 times, or if it's just once, or reading notes, however you want to do it, this is the first time where you get to actually learn the way you like to learn. So really be excited about that, and don't get frustrated when you do a lot of trial and error. I mean, one test, a block, I bought an iPad because I thought that's how I was going to study best. The iPad has now been sold. But you do I went to the Apple store and I bought an iPad because I'm like, oh, that's going to help me remember everything. And so just make sure that don't get frustrated when you're constantly changing your study habits. But just adult learning, it's wonderful.
I want to add a little bit to that too. Somebody mentioned flashcards. So I think it's important to know if you're good at studying with other people. I tried to study with other people first year, and it was just an epic fail. I am so distracted, and I like to talk to people too much, and like slowly from first year on, like now, I don't study around anybody. Like for step 1, I studied totally at home with no sound or no music or whatever. You got to figure it out. Like I tried to use my friends' flashcards. I was like, well, they're doing really well. I'm going to try their flashcards out. Epic fail. Just if you are not on flashcard, you have to just know kind of what will work for you, if that's drawing or whatever. And then like Dexter was saying, I wouldn't like make a plan that's too hard set in stone, because when you have to change it, you might freak out about changing it. So just kind of, you gotta roll with the punches, but there's plenty of little assignments that are less weighted grade-wise that you can be like, okay, well maybe not flashcards because that quiz didn't go so well, let me try something else. So it's not like you study all semester long, then you have your one test, and it's like, I wasn't able to figure something different out because I didn't know it wasn't working. So you'll be able to adjust.
I'll also say, like, I know when I was in your all seats, this was something that was on my mind. I feel like a certain amount of people that get into med school feel like they never learned how to study in undergrad, and they never had to study really maybe as much as their peers. Don't worry about it. I mean, I was freaking out hearing people talk about, I'm going to study 8 hours a day when I'm in med school. I'm going to wake up at 6 a.m., work out, come back, study, sit at the desk. Some people do that, and it works out well for them. I can't do that. Just trust that you are going to figure it out. You're all here because you're very capable and smart, and even if it feels like a radical change from what you were doing before, you will figure it out. And there are a lot of resources for you to be able to figure it out. You're not going to be learning how to study on your own if you're having trouble.
Can you guys talk a little bit about the standardized patient experience?
So yeah, sorry, we couldn't decide who was going to talk about it. So the standardized patient. So when you start first year, all through first and second year, it's longitudinal. So for me, I had a patient, and I saw this actor. He's acting all the symptoms out, and what he can't act out, you get on a sheet of paper that says, I have this. But you work with him. The one thing I liked, let me collect my thoughts. So longitudinal versus the randoms. So the longitudinal, you actually like learn different steps of medicine along the way throughout your 2 years. So at first it was just kind of like, Doc, I have a cough. I'm like, okay, we can take care of that. And then it got worse. Like then I found out he was an alcoholic in one thing. Then it was talking to him about quitting that. Then it was a smoking cessation talk. And then came to find out that he had like liver cancer. And so then I had to have this learn how to have like a heartbreaking conversation with someone about that. Then I had a fake simulation of him. He's actually now dying. And so we all had to have our end of life talk. And so it's really incredible. These actors, the standardized patients, they really take their jobs very seriously, and they know their roles. If you ask them a family history, they have it memorized because all that's important. And so they really take time to know who they're supposed to be in that moment in the room. And for me personally, I like feedback as I go. I hate going 25 minutes in the room and then you tell me, oh, by the way, you did this the whole time, when I could have fixed that in the moment. And so my standardized patient and I actually went in and out between acting and not, so that he could be like, stop saying that, like stop doing double barrel, things like that. So that way I didn't go 25 minutes making the same mistake the whole time. So you really form a bond with your standardized patient the whole time. I'd pass him in the hall and I'd say hi to him and he would ask me what I'm going into. And so you really get invested. And then there's standardized patients that you just see randomly where you're just like learning about something in particular. And so then you get placed with any other standardized patient. So you have your longitudinal, I always see this guy, to anything random. If you have to talk about birth control, you'll be with the female standardized patient for that talk. So that's kind of how that works. I thought it was wonderful, and they really are. Their jobs are very, very valuable to us.
I saw the standardized patient program as having two real purposes. So the first purpose is when you're a first-year student, you don't know anything about how to interact with the patient, and that's totally fine and totally natural. And so it's teaching you how to do that. And then Justine mentioned how to deal with all of these really difficult subjects, and the standardized patient program teaches you how to do all that stuff. But really, ultimately, what you're doing is you're taking a board exam at the end of third year, beginning of fourth year, and that's also a purpose of the standardized patient program. It's a clinical skills exam, and I'll tell you, I took that exam and I felt so prepared for it. I left that exam and I was like, this was way easier than the standardized patients we deal with on a daily basis. So, yeah, they do all that stuff. They teach you how to interact with patients when you've never done that before. They teach you how to really deal with difficult subjects that you've never had to deal with before in the position of a physician, because it's very different talking to somebody about these subjects when you're in a position of power than just talking to somebody about it. So learning how to do all that, but then preparing you to take a board exam at the end of your medical school career. And I felt really prepared. I don't know, I mean, if the other fourth years want to talk on that, but I just felt it was way easier than the standardized patients to deal with on a daily basis. So,
yeah, it definitely prepares you for your clinical skills exam at the end of, I guess, third year, towards the beginning of fourth year. But the bigger thing is, you're going into this profession where you have to learn how to interact with patients in a certain manner and how to ask questions and how to word things, and it's something completely new where, going into it at first I was kind of skeptical. We're going in with actors. How realistic is this going to be? But by the time you get to the hospital and you're in clinic, you feel totally comfortable talking to patients. You know how to word things. You know what questions to ask. You know how to ask them. And it makes a world of difference, because this is going to be an interaction that you've never had before. And you'll get to third year and you're just kind of thrown in there to go see patients on your own, and the standardized patients do a great job of preparing you for that.
I think, like with anything else, though, it depends on how seriously you take it. I think some people kind of go through the motions of this is one thing we have to just do, and so you kind of go in and you're like, okay, let me just kind of do it. But I think that when you really actually try and get the benefit of, okay, what am I trying to get from this patient encounter? How am I interacting with this person? Let me take their feedback seriously so that I can use it and be prepared, because I don't think people often think about, oh, I have to do this third or fourth year. They don't think that far ahead. They're just like, okay, what do I need to do to get, kind of check this box right now? And so I think that there's a lot of benefit from doing it, again, if you really actually kind of trying to apply yourself in that process for the standardized patients. And I think that it can be easy to underestimate how difficult it is to be in a room with somebody when you haven't done that before, and talk to them about some of the issues that we have to talk to them about, sensitive subjects, and talking to people about sex and drugs and other things, and asking those things in ways that, might be uncomfortable for you, it might be uncomfortable to the patient, and so having those difficult conversations.
I would also like to emphasize that it is a low-risk activity. You are going to do things that are wrong while you're practicing with the standardized patients, and that's great, because you want to do the wrong things there and, do the right things out in the hospital and clinics, okay, obviously. But, it's really great, a lot of people are really afraid of failing, and, I'm going to do this wrong, I'm going to do this wrong, but it's okay, and they're super great, and it's constructive. No one's berating you, no one's looking down on you. They're like, oh, great, but this time do it this way. So if you're one of those people that get really afraid of confrontation and getting things wrong, don't be in this situation. It's very low risk, and it's really great.
I thought one of the most important aspects of the SP program we have here is that you really learn how to take care of the person and not just the condition that they're dealing with. And a lot of that is developing the communication skills, because you're learning in the first 2 years and even through the third and fourth, kind of like the disease process, the things you should be looking for, and maybe the things you want to, I guess the medication you want to give to a patient. But one thing you're not really learning about is if you're learning about heart failure, is that if somebody is they're having problems keeping up with their medications, or they might not want to get a blood transfusion or something, you're learning how to communicate with them for both of you to understand kind of, what your expectation is, what the patient's expectation is, and how you kind of meet at a common ground.
I also think, so we talked a lot about the communication. The SP program teaches you the physical exam steps too. In the moment, first and second year, I was like, oh, I'm never going to remember this. And then come third year, it was like I was thrown into a room my first week or something of internal medicine, and I was surprised at myself because my SPs really taught me it was just ingrained in me to know what exact physical exam steps to do. Because if I were just reading that on a sheet, it's like, here's 25 things you need to do. Don't forget to do all 25 of them. You're not getting the same learning process by just reading that as you would every time you go in your SP to practice it. And then that's one of the other things they'll stop you and be like, don't push on my belly like that. That's kind of weird. So.
One thing I would add is it's really easy to underestimate how easy it is to give a physical exam. It's awkward and it's challenging, and if you don't have an opportunity to practice with a standardized patient, you would make yourself and potentially a patient in a clinic or a hospital setting pretty uncomfortable. Even as simple as taking a blood pressure, like where to put your stethoscope, how is this too tight, is this too loose, things like that you wouldn't get that direct feedback from a trained professional standardized patient. It's really invaluable.
Can I ask one? So there was a slide about the Trover Clinic, and several are at Trover now. Could you all speak about why you went there and what your experience has been like, how it's different from the city? If you don't know, Trover's in Madisonville, Kentucky, and you're riding down the beautiful Western Kentucky Turnpike, and all of a sudden, like Oz rising up in the distance on the yellow brick road, you see this amazing medical center stuck out in the middle of nowhere. And we've been partnering with them for decades and decades, 30 years or more. Tell us about it.
So I'm actually from Madisonville, Kentucky, so that made my decision to go back to the Trover campus very easy because I got to go back and be closer to my family for a couple of years. And so that's one of the main reasons why I chose Trover was because of that. But another reason was because you do your first and second years in Louisville just like everyone else. You work with your classmates, you take all the same tests, you do everything, and then third year you get to move down to Madisonville. And in my class there are only 7, but now I think they're taking 12 a year. And so 12 students move down there, and you work as a group together, and you do all the same rotations that all of your counterparts in Louisville do. You just do them with different doctors and different faculty that are down in the Madisonville area. It allows a little bit more of a one-on-one teaching experience for the students down there. There's not residents. There's only one family medicine residency, so a lot of your rotations, there are no residents like in an academic center. So you're really doing a lot of the work that, per se, a resident would be doing without, like, the responsibility. You have the oversight, so you're not on your own like a resident is, but you get to do a lot of the hands-on stuff. And so that was one of the main reasons that I chose to go to the Trover program down there. You still attend all the same lectures that your counterparts in Louisville do. They have a program called ITV. It's kind of like Skype if you've used Skype before. So you are faced in, you have a microphone, you can communicate with the faculty, communicate with the other students in the room. So it's like you're integrated into the classroom, and you just connect for those sessions up here to the Louisville campus. And so you still get all the same learning experiences that they get up here. Just a little bit smaller hospital, less students, less residents, and a little bit more hands-on with problems that you would see more in rural areas that you might not see up here in Louisville, but more just rural problems. Do you want to add to that?
So I'm actually from Madisonville too, but that wasn't the reason why I chose to do the Trover program. I actually fell in love with Louisville because I went to Murray State, which is teeny tiny, just like Madisonville. So I love Louisville a lot, but like Kristen was saying, the rotations, I mean, she can speak to it more than I can because I'm not on rotations yet, but the hands-on experience is something that I learned very well from, and that's just knowing that about myself. So having that one-on-one interaction and being able to converse with the attending and do a lot of things with my own hands instead of just watching. There's a saying, is it like, watch one, do one, teach one? So that's, I think, a mantra that Trover goes by a lot. And so you learn very efficiently and very well that way. There's also opportunities to come back to Louisville and do rotations. So the Trover students that go to Madisonville. They're not restricted just to Madisonville. So if you want to do rotations up here, they definitely offer those opportunities.
And also, for all students that are up here in Louisville, there's an opportunity for 5 or 6 students at a time to go from Louisville down to the Madisonville area to do a surgery rotation. So 6 students at a time can be in Madisonville doing that surgery rotation. And so it's a unique opportunity for the students that are in Louisville just to go down and experience the Trover campus for 8 weeks and get to learn one-on-one from some of the doctors down there and just kind of see what life is like a little bit down there and see what life is like in a rural area. So they're not committing to being down there for 2 years, but they get to go down there just for their 8-week surgery rotation. And everyone really likes it. Everyone that's come down there has had really positive comments about the surgery rotation there, and just it's a valuable experience.
You showed the map about where you live. Oh, come on.
Come on.
After this young man, maybe the individuals could say where you live in the city and why you chose it and what the strengths and issues are with different areas.
Hi, I've got just 2 quick questions. Are any of you doing one of the military scholarship programs? No? Okay. Well, my other question is about, it's more pertaining to like the first and second year. What is your class schedule like? Like, is it the same from week to week, or does it change?
All right. So your class schedule is not like undergrad. You won't have the same thing Monday, Wednesday, Friday, Tuesday, Thursday, what have you. We have a website called RedMed, and that is your life. So you go on this calendar, and it has events blocked off, and it tells you, what each event is. So every day will be something different. And you can't really go and say, I have biochem every Tuesday, Thursday. It's different per day. So basically, you just go by the RedMed calendar. Yeah, that's really it. That's all I have to say.
On the RedMed calendar, it also lets you know what classes are mandatory for those who don't attend class regularly and stay in Tegrity land and watch lectures online. I'm one of those students. So that's one thing I love about RedMed. You know where you're supposed to be and when you have to be there, and it helps break down your schedule so you can plan your study activities and your social life accordingly.
He said Tegrity land. If nobody knows what that means, Tegrity is a program where you record the lectures and the audio over the lectures. So if you all don't know what that is, that's what that is. And all the lectures are recorded, whether they're mandatory or not.
Thanks.
I would say on average, too, I don't know about first years, but I think for second years, generally speaking, Carly, would you say we have about maybe 4 hours of lecture a day? And it's either morning or afternoon, and then typically the rest of your day is free to do independent study unless you have, again, some other small group. We have a lot of small groups, and so you do have time, built into your schedule for that as well. But generally speaking, the rest of the day is yours to do your own independent study activity. And I think when I was talking to one of my colleagues at UK, they actually have more in-class time over the course of the day, and so it just kind of depends.
I think another beautiful thing about RedMed, is that it tells you what classes you have, and it tells you what the topic is, and then if you click the class, it'll have like lecture handouts that go with each lecture too. So it's like everything is right there for you, and if you want to go to class, or if you maybe accidentally slept till 11 o'clock that day, every day.
Every day.
Yeah, and you don't have to keep staying there. You can go. And this is just an aside, I'm kind of a tech nerd. I like techie things, and so it's really easy to sync the calendar to your phone or to your watch, and it will buzz in and give you updates and stuff. It's built into the online website that you can do that kind of stuff. So living, so this map that we had, it's a map. So Dexter, you want to start?
Where do you live, Dexter?
I live close to UofL undergrad campus, like a 7-minute drive from here. The reason I chose it, pretty much I wanted to be close to school, but not really at school all the time, because it's kind of where some of the other apartment complexes are. I guess luckily for me, I live in an area that's quieter. Like even though there's college students, there's also families around, so I don't really have an issue with like noise even during the weekend or anything. I guess it's kind of closer to that Gold Star that's kind of at the 4 o'clock from the Red Star.
I live in the Highlands. For anyone who's from Louisville, it's like Douglas Loop area. And we chose it because my husband was extremely adamant about us living near Bardstown Road. I couldn't have cared less. First year I lived further out east, and I did have an issue with the driving sometimes. Like I had to take the highway, and now I don't have to take the highway, so that's kind of great. But the location was mostly that we wanted to be like near a lot of restaurants because we like to go eat everywhere, surprise. And he also needed to be somewhat close to work. So we're like equidistant to where I have to go to school and he has to go to work.
I also live in the Highlands. I actually live with my parents. And for anyone from Louisville, if you can comfortably live with your parents and not have to waste money on rent somewhere, I highly recommend it. Because you guys had the loans speech today, right? Scared you, put the fear of God in you. If you really have the option of living comfortably with your parents and that's not an issue, I just recommend it so much. It'll make your life so much easier, especially if it's a distraction-free environment. I can't recommend it enough. And so we live in the Highlands. We live by Assumption High School. I just drive down Bardstown Road to get to campus. It's amazing.
So I live in the Phoenix Place Apartments, which that is, let me think, about 3 or 4 blocks from here. So it takes about a 13-minute walk for me to get here. So I walk to school every day, which is really nice. If I can avoid driving, I would love to do that at all costs. But I really enjoy the area I live in. I'm very close to Bardstown Road. It takes me probably 8 minutes to get to the nearest Kroger grocery store. So I really like living there. I would go off. My parents, I'm from Taylorsville, so I'm 45 minutes away if I chose to live with my parents. And for me, I don't think, unless you want to watch your lectures online, for me, I didn't want to live with my parents because 45 minutes is a long way to drive, and you go 45 minutes there and 45 back. So that was a big factor in me determining where I lived. I would love to live with my parents, but the distance was just too much. I would lose too much study time or, free time to do what I chose to do.
Before we move on, I want to comment on that. So a lot of my classmates actually lived with their parents. So if your parents will have you, it's a good way to cut down on costs. Really, I mean, if you can save $700 to $1,000 a month, that's huge in the grand scheme of things because you think, 48 months, $1,000 a month, that's a lot of money. So you mentioned it. If they'll have you, it's a great option. So just think about that if y'all are from Louisville.
I live in the Lofts of Broadway, which is about 3 blocks south of here, and straight down Preston Street. So I also walk to campus, and I'm from Louisville, and my parents live out in the Shively area, and I just didn't want to make that commute every day. And I love mom and dad, but it was time to get out of there. So I enjoy having my own place, and the walk's not bad. And if it's too late, like they said before, there is an escort service. They'll just shoot you home, so it's never. I haven't had any problems.
So I live a little bit east. I live off Westport Road by Ballard, Westport Village, for anybody who knows where that is. And the reason that I chose to live there was because actually before I started school, I was working and I had bought a house and stuff out there and was basing my decision around where my daughter was going to go to school and stuff like that. So thanks. And I like it, and it's not a problem. I do have to get on the highway. It takes me maybe 15, 20 minutes-ish to get here, so it's not that bad.
I actually live near where, let's see, the picture of on River Road. I live near, yeah, I don't live at that apartment complex, but there are numerous apartment complexes in that area, and it literally only takes me, if there's no traffic, I can get downtown in 10 minutes, which is nice. And I considered living closer to school just because, it's like, 10 minutes, it doesn't seem like that much, but driving to and from school kind of racks up the time during the week. But I kind of like that little bit of a gap where I'm a class goer. I've tried Tegrity and it doesn't really work for me, so I like to go to class, and having that space where, you go to 4 hours of lecture, your brain got hammered with a lot of knowledge, and then having that little gap to drive home, which still isn't actually that much, but 10 minutes kind of lets me decompress just a little bit, Never had a problem with safety in that area. Again, it's all about being safe, so you are in a city where there are a lot of people, but I tend to stay at the school when I do study here pretty late, so I use the escort service, or we can park after 6 o'clock. You can park at the meters for free. But going home at midnight in the area where I live, never had a problem, and I've lived at the same place since first year. So that's definitely a plus, and that's why I like living in that area.
I chose to live a little bit east of Louisville. I was about 15 or 20 minutes out, kind of near the Westport Road area. I moved to Louisville by myself, and I was going to be living by myself, so I wanted to make sure that I was in an area that I felt safe. And I felt like the east side was safest for me as being alone on the east side. So the trade-in was that I did have to drive a little bit, which just meant knowing when traffic times were and just making sure if I had to be here during one of the traffic times, I left a little bit earlier, or I'd just come to school and get here 30 minutes or an hour early and just study for that time before the class actually started. So I just kind of planned my schedule around classes and knew what times traffic were and tried to avoid those times on the highway.
During first and second year, I lived in St. Matthews. It's more of a residential area, a lot of like single-family homes. It's maybe 6 miles east of here, so you can drive and not take the expressway and get here in 15 minutes. If the expressway is clear, you could get here in probably 10. But then I moved to the Clifton area, Frankfort Avenue area last year. And that's sort of an in-between St. Matthews and Bardstown Road you've been hearing about, where it's pretty residential and quiet, but then you still have a handful of nice restaurants and bars. And that's maybe 3 miles east of here. So you can get here, not take the expressway and get here in less than 10 minutes. Also, sometimes I'll ride my bike. It's a pretty bike-friendly city. So I could bike from there to here in 20 minutes maybe. And so it makes it's a pretty easy commute.
Yeah.
The nice part about that area too is Cherokee Park is right there. Beautiful, beautiful, beautiful park, dog area, run, whatever you want to do.
That's also why we chose the Highlands for the dog and the parks.
All right. Just waiting for the look. Yeah, hello.
I noticed that two of you guys are going into primary care, and one in the surgery, and I just wondered what the atmosphere was like as far as choosing a specialty. If you felt pushed in any direction, if you felt like the environment was good for choosing primary care versus specialty, just comment a little bit on that.
Yeah, so coming into medical school, I was thinking I was going to go the surgery route, and I thought that up until the last rotation of third year, so I was pretty late in deciding and very, very torn. It was there was a lot of emotions happening, frustration, crying. Like, I just was very, very confused on what I wanted to do with my life. And I met with, and that's the thing, every single rotation, they're obviously trying to promote their specialty and how great it is because they love their jobs. But nobody is pressuring you. They want you to pick the right choice because they have to work with you. So if you're miserable in a profession, that's not fun for them. And so I met with the surgery program director, and he tried to steer me in the right direction. I met with Dr. Wheeler for a little bit when I was thinking family, and student affairs is actually where all the conversations happened for me when they realized I had yet to declare at the end of third year. They're like, what's going on? And so I was like, I don't know, I'm confused. And then I just started meeting with everybody, and they're so supportive, and that's just coming from a very confused person by the end of third year. Primary care, there's always a push for primary care. There will be for a really long time. We're in need of them. And so that was what sparked my interest. I want to be somewhere where it is heavily needed and to help the most people. And I think that at UofL, especially because of how rural Kentucky is in general, the push for primary care is going to be high no matter what. But that was me.
I also didn't really know what I wanted to do when I started clinicals. So a lot of it was experimentation for me, like which rotations did I like, which did I not like, check those off, and then go from there. But I never felt pressured to do specialty versus primary care. And I'm doing pediatrics, so I never felt pressured. Like Justine said, everybody's going to try to sell you their specialty because they love their job. Everybody loves what they do. So they're going to advocate for their specialty. But the Student Affairs Office and everybody in medical education does a really great job of hooking you up with people from each specialty. So you can sit down and talk with somebody who's in general surgery, who's in pediatric, who's in family medicine, who's in neurology, and they'll tell you what it's like. And you also learn what it's like on a daily basis when you rotate through these specialties. But I don't know if I'm reading into your question too much, but Louisville doesn't like push you in one direction versus the other, the school itself. There's no like, yeah, you have to do a specialty. There's no, you have to do primary care. So but that was my experience. Yes?
So being at the Trover campus, it was a little bit different experience, I think, than the people up here, but still the same, that there's no push. Really, I have classmates from the Trover program that are going into surgery. I have classmates going into peds and psych and family, so it's really a good variety, which is really what physicians need. They need a good variety going into each field so that there's people to take care of all the different patients and all the different issues.
So I ended up choosing surgery. I didn't go primary care, but I will say University of Louisville is a really busy academic medical center. There's not a specialty that you won't be able to see or experience during your time here. So whether it's something super specialized, U of L has it, or if it's something like primary care, they have it. But to put a plug in for primary care, because I think they do a great job of at least showing you the need for primary care physicians out there. During our family medicine rotation, we have to do rural medicine rotation, and so you really kind of see the need for primary care and get to experience it and learn about it firsthand.
I will comment, we have like the set rotations that we are required to do during third year, and I think if you have an interest in something outside of those, you do need to like stick your own neck out there and look for those yourself, which when I say that I mean like you contact Student Affairs and say, hey, help me with this, and they'll help you because like I had an interest in anesthesiology and we don't have that rotation, so when I was on surgery I kind of talked to the anesthesiologist, but then during my elective time is when I went looking for those things. So, you know, I guess a little bit more specialized things, you need to, it's just like a teensy bit more work to get into them, but it's not really. But so I don't think that there's a sway one way or another. We certainly have the requirement to do like the overarching like internal medicine, pediatrics rotations, but you're able to do, like you could do a whole month in ENT if you were really into ENT.
This isn't your exact question, but related to it. We have, one of the things that I appreciate is that from the very beginning we have opportunities to participate in a number of things to get exposure to a wide range of specialties, and then also primary care experience. And so we didn't talk about like student-run clinics necessarily, but we have opportunities to actually be out in the community providing services as if we're kind of like the primary care docs for a number of different patient populations. And I think that that's an awesome eye-opening experience that students get to participate in. And we have a number of student groups that are kind of, RS, registered student organizations, that provide information on different specialties that are available. And so there are just a wealth of opportunities. We have to do preceptorships from first year on and get exposure that way as well. So I think there are just a number of opportunities to be able to participate and find out kind of what it is that you're interested in.
Yeah, I hate to prolong lunch, but I have a question to ask on your behalf, since it hasn't been asked yet. Medical students, you say. We've talked about so many logistical things. We talked about where you're going to live, how much are you going to study, what are you thinking about, what are you worrying about. But we haven't talked about what I think is just such an important part of our lifestyle here. Every single one of us is involved in one main thing or a number of things outside of school. We have registered student organizations, RSOs, and you'll learn about those during orientation when you come in. So I was just wondering if everybody could talk about some of the extracurriculars they have been involved in, how they got involved in them, what's been the focus of their time outside of studying.
So in terms of things I was interested in the moment I was accepted was the student-run clinics. I'm really glad that you mentioned that. The student-run clinics, they serve different populations of underserved people in the community. The one that I helped run, they're the clinic directors that you apply for, and we serve the halfway houses here in Louisville, and that was a really rewarding experience. And so that was one of the things that I did there. I went on global health trips. I was involved a lot with, just trying to go to as many surgery interest group meetings, which they had touched on as well, interest group meetings for each specialty, and you just go around and you can go to any lunch session you want and find out about things. You can be course reps and work with the professor and be that liaison between the students and the professors and look at exams and work questions fair and things like that. You can get involved in so many things. LCME was here for accreditation and I took them on a tour. You just can get involved in anything. You'll get so many emails. If you don't check your emails yet, just wait. Your email will be your new text message, and so you'll just get all these opportunities, and if you like it, do it. If you don't do it. Don't always have that CV in your mind, I have to add that. Just do things that you love. There's so many things to do. I can't even think of all the extracurriculars, but if anyone else has others.
One of the things I do is help teach the Suture Clinic, which is an outside organization to help people learn basic surgical skills. And so that's a 2-hour commitment I do every Sunday. I've been doing it since I was a second year last year. And so I'm interested in surgery, and that's helped connect me to other surgeons that are in the community that also work with at the university, and some that come from other places. It's helped me get involved in research, kind of pushing my career kind of where I want to end up.
One of the activities I did was volunteering with the SMILE program, Students Making Illness. I can't remember the rest of the acronym because we just call it SMILE, but we got to volunteer in the pediatric oncology unit over at Cosair. And what drew me to that was my experiences with Dance Blue back at UK in undergrad, and so I got to kind of continue this volunteer work, and basically we'd go over there and organize holiday parties and play with kids all afternoon, so you really can't say no to that if you like kids.
Another thing, I think the great thing about the RSOs at UofL is there's some more healthcare related ones. There are some fun ones, so you can do intramural sports. I'm in trying to start the Arts and Medicine RSO, and I'm in the medical Spanish RSO. But something really important to me coming into medical school was learning how to be a physician advocate. Advocacy is something that you'll learn more about, and your role in doing that. So I'm involved in the Students for a National Health Program RSO, and there are a lot of sort of advocacy related student organizations that you can get involved in and really sort of plan what kind of physician you're going to be and what your role in the community is going to be once you're a professional.
Currently, I am actually applying for the Distinction in Medical Education track. So I know they've probably talked about the tracks recently, but they are a great opportunity to just expand your knowledge base on things and to really get, further your career past just medicine. So I know there's a lot of opportunities I know the 3rd and 4th years can speak to this more, but mentoring and teaching the younger medical students is really big. Helping them with their physical exam steps, things like that. Those are things that I'm interested in. Obviously, being a first year, I'm not at that step yet, but that's what I'm looking forward to.
One thing I would say that's important to note is that you can have your hand in several different organizations. It's not pick something that you're passionate about and that's all you are allowed to spend your allotted time to. I personally am a member of the Student National Medical Association, and this is an organization that is geared towards helping underserved communities in medicine and underrepresented communities in medicine. And that's where I spend the majority of my volunteer time and free time, but I also help with several other organizations, so don't feel like you have to pick something and be limited.
I'm glad you posed this question, actually, because I feel like we spend a lot of time focusing on kind of the classroom component and what goes into being a good physician in terms of the books, and that stuff will come. I mean, so as you're choosing, where you want to go or what you want to do, I mean, all of those things will fall into place. But I think, as you think about the institution, and what I love about this place in particular is how they develop you as an individual outside of that. And so we have a lot of opportunities. I think the first year curriculum has changed considerably in terms of an increased focus on like social determinants of health, and really being in touch with the community and what's going on and how, different social factors are affecting our patient population. And those are things that we really need to be thinking about above and beyond just our basic sciences and pathophys stuff that we're learning in the books. And so I'm also involved in the same program, Students for a National Health Plan, and really focused on making sure that all of our patients have access to equitable care. I also did Clinical Ties, which is a group that bridges kind of what you're doing in your first 2 years as far as the book work with kind of clinical application and being able to really use that third and fourth year. And then I did the student-run clinics also.
So I'm just going to kind of dispel the myth that med students can't have a life. During first and second year, I played soccer 3 to 4 times a week. In med school, I ran my first marathon. I went to Kenya. I climbed Mount Kilimanjaro. I took numerous trips with friends to Georgia, Florida, went out to the West Coast, to California, as well as, I've been fortunate enough to publish research articles, present at conferences, and so you can kind of do it all. The opportunities are here. Everyone kind of went down the list of things they were interested in and passionate about, and you can find it, and you can make time for it and have plenty of time for whatever it is you're interested in. You aren't just going to be a med student studying all the time. You're going to have opportunities to do stuff you really care about and enjoy. So get excited and enjoy the ride.
And if family is a priority for you, that's definitely something you can do as well. I got married after my first year of medical school. I just had a baby 6 months ago, so family time can work in there too. It's not only school stuff. You live a life. You're a person. You're 22, 26, 30, and so you can continue to live your life and continue to, enjoy things outside of school. It's not all about schoolwork.
Since nobody can follow what Bobby Kessie just said, we're going to wrap for lunch, I think. Is that right? Yeah.